Parshas Bo, or Boy, depends on how you pronounce it. So the Sefer Or Gedalyahu from Rav Gedalia Shor Zatzal, a fantastic Sefer. Every time they reprint it, it gets sold out almost immediately, and there's a real good reason for that. It is a wonderful, wonderful set of Sfarim, recommended to all. On Parshas Bo, the Or Gedalyahu writes as follows: it is well known that every single mitzvah has an intimate and important component of it, and that is Zechel Yetzias Mitzrayim. And we don't understand what those words mean because we're so used to saying them. A lot of things that we say all the time, we're not really understanding what we're saying. We're just so used to saying them. It doesn't mean that it's just a zikaron for Yetzias Mitzrayim. What it means is, according to Rav Gedalia, is that when we do this mitzvah, a person is zoich and uses the word papoil, physically, in its actual reality, to the exact same inspiration and enlightenment that we had at Yetzias Mitzrayim itself. Ha'orosh hayu be'eis Yetzias Mitzrayim. Okay? And these are part and parcel of the doing of the mitzvah. Now, this is an interesting concept. We just recently had it in Hanukkah, and since when I'm taping now, we're just after Hanukkah, it comes to my mind. We know that the Or HaGanuz, that famous light that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created, Sheshes Mei Bereishis, is hidden away for the tzaddikim, for Olam HaEmes, for Olam Haba, and yet there's a piece of it, a part of it, which is in the lights that we light on Hanukkah. Where's that light come from? You strike a match, you light a candle, and you light the candle with the neiros with the candle. Where did that Or HaGanuz coming from? It comes from our bracha. When we make the bracha, the kedusha of the bracha suffuses that light and brings out from that light a special light of Or HaGanuz. We can't see it, we can't appreciate it, we don't see it, we just see a little lechtalach burning. We don't see everything. We don't know everything. And we are far away from understanding these things. But many Gedolim did see that, they did know that, and they were able to actually see that koyach in those candles in exactly the same way. Each and every mitzvah that we do has a koyach in it, which Rav Gedalia says, and he brings a raya in a minute from the Gra of Yetzias Mitzrayim. The exact same phenomenal religious experience that Klal Yisrael went through in all of the parts of Yetzias Mitzrayim which we read about and which we get excited about, the gashmius of it, they had a ruchnius component which is far beyond our ability to understand, and hopefully we'll experience it a little bit if we keep on looking into it. The Gra in the Sefer Aderes Eliyahu is quoted by Rav Gedalia, and he says from the pasuk in Ha'azinu, Kinesha Yorkina al Gozalov Yirachev, like a eagle who spreads over his wings, who flies over his little eagles, the little babies. Yifros Kanafav Yikacheyu Yisrael al Evrasai. And the Gra discusses four mitzvahs which are represented by this pasuk of Kinesha Yorkina al Gozalov Yirachev. Okay? Talks about mezuzah, talks about tzitzis, talks about tefillin. These are four mitzvahs which surround us and wrap us and give us an inkling or a little taste of his galus hashchina. And he says, not only is it in these four mitzvahs, Rav Gedalia says, but in all mitzvahs, in all of the mitzvahs that we do, we understand that there's a Gilui Shechina, which was exactly the same Gilui Shechina which was at Yetzias Mitzrayim. And he gets that from this pasuk from the Gra. And he goes into it further. When a person does a ma'aseh mitzvah, when a person does a mitzvah in exactly the same way as when we light the candles by Hanukkah, you have the ha'ara of Yetzias Mitzrayim. And he repeats this over and over again, that it's in each and every mitzvah. Now, this is a fascinating insight into a particular part of a mitzvah which one would never even think about to illustrate this very point. And this comes from the Sefer Apirion, which again I quote many times, from the Baal Kisser Shulchan Aruch, the Shlomo Gansfried, the Sefer Apirion, a very hard sefer to find, very small sefer, and worth its weight in gold. And he says in our week's parsha, Vayofus abotzek, they baked the dough. Ugos matzos kilo chametz ki gershu mitzrayim. So what do we say on the Haggadah of Pesach? Matzah zu shanu oichlem al shema, al shum shlo hispik b'tzekum shlo avasenu lahachmitz. Why are we eating this matzah? We're eating this matzah because of the matzah that they ate in Mitzrayim, which they did it in a big fast hurry. Didn't have enough time for it to become chametz. So now we know that's a hechsher. Best hechsher you're ever going to get. The Torah gave the hashgacha on the matzahs that they made in Mitzrayim, that they were all kosher Pesach. The Rambam brings down a fascinating halacha. And he says that all mei peiros, if you make matzah with fruit juice, they don't become chametz, because it doesn't have the ability to cause chimus to happen. Don't ask me how. There's a Rambam. If you want to look it up, you could. Okay? There are 4 liquids that the Rambam mentions that you cannot use, because if you use them, it's not called lechem oini. Wine, oil, honey, and milk. However, if you made them with those liquids, it would not be chimus. It would not make it into chametz. However, we know that there's halacha that you can still be yotzei with this matzah. You can still be yotzei with this matzah, even though it doesn't bring it to real chimutz. because the most important ingredient are the chitim. This is a fascinating chiddush which I was not aware of. It doesn't cause it to become chametz, and yet it's still you can be yotzei with it to make it matzah. So then he asks a fascinating question: Why do all of the authorities, every piece in Shulchan Aruch, every place and everywhere where you go, we make matzahs in water? That for sure brings it to chimutz. And not only that, once you have to do it in water, you have to be medaktek with the water to make it properly. It has to be mayim shalanu, which all we all learn in elementary schools. Not means our water. It means the water that stayed overnight, so it shouldn't be too hot or too cold, because we don't want the chimutz process to be accelerated. And you have to do the 18 minutes with the clock running. And all of the chumras that we have when we make the matzahs, with all the dikdukim that we make it throughout history. It would be much better, the Sefer Apirion says, except for those 4, to make the matzahs with mei peros, that you won't have to worry so much about all these things. And you can be yotzei with lechem oini. Why do we do it the way we do it? Comes back to what I just said a minute ago. Because that's the way they did it in Mitzrayim. And if we follow in their footsteps, we're going to have the same ha'oros, the same Gilui Shechina that they did. Therefore, that's what the Zeichel Yitzias Mitzrayim is when it comes to this particular technical aspect of making matzah. We dafka do it in Mayim, because when you do it with peros, there's no Zeicher, because that's not the way they did it, because it doesn't come to chimutz. So this matzah zu shanu oichlem al shema. Why are we eating dafka with this particular difficult way to make it? It would have been much better to do it without any problem of chametz, al shum shalai hispik, because that's the way they did it. If that's the way they did it, and we're following in their footsteps, we will be zoiche to the same Gilui Shechina, to the same elevation in our spiritual status that they had in Mitzrayim. What a chiddush! What a gigantic chiddush! I thought that this was a spectacular thing to share with you. We have our abilities, our poor little abilities, and our poor little mitzvahs. Of course, I'm only talking about myself. No matter how poor our mitzvah observance is, by doing the mitzvahs in the proper way, that's the key. That is the only way that we're doing the mitzvahs properly, and by doing the mitzvahs properly, by elevating ourselves in ruchnius, doing the Ritzayin Hashem, and bringing Geula to the world. Good Shabbos. I first saw the Or Gedalia, and I said, I can't get into that, it's too technical. Then I saw this thing in the Apir, and I said, wow, what a shidduch. What a shidduch. The two of them went together so spectacularly. I said, this is gold, this is worth it, this is worthy to share with everybody.